And I welcome. If this is your first time, what a day to show up. Can we bring the lights up, please, a little bit, because I can't see anybody. Thank you. If it's your first time, man, what a great day. You came out, plowed through the snow, got here. People that moved here from up north are saying, really, this kept you from getting out? And I discovered, because Denise and I drove up to Knoxville to see those new grandbabies, and actually, first time got to hold both of them yesterday. Yeah. They're doing great. Josie is off oxygen now. Their feet, I'm telling you, they're doing awesome. I cannot wait to get them home and then get the other 3 grandkids back home too. I am just so excited about that. But here's what I discovered driving up there. People get out and do what they want to do. Because there was no shortage of people in the movie parking lot, the Target, Walmart park, even Topgolf. Lights were on as we drove by. And Denise said, can you believe people are out playing Topgolf? I said, absolutely, I can believe it. But I do understand there are those, man, that could not make it. And hopefully you're watching online. But regardless, welcome. Thank you guys for coming out today. And I like Casey, or Bob, I had faith you would be here. Bob said, "More. Listen, they're going to show up. That's our people are like that. They're going to show up." A couple of things. We're actually moving the baptism out to February 2nd, simply because it was supposed to be next week, but that would limit with today's service only being 1 people being able to sign up. So if you want to sign up for that, please either do it on the app. Call the office, but that'll be February 2nd, which is also our new to the bar lunch. If you're new around here and you'd like to find out, hey, what do they actually believe? Is this a cult? That has been said. But things like that, what do they do? They actually believe the Bible. That'll be the day to show up. We'll feed you lunch. We'll take care of your kids while we're going through this, and we will not keep you long. I promise you that, because those that know that come here, Sunday afternoon is when I lay before the Lord, and He speaks the clearest to me. Man, that was going to be a tough one. That's all right. Hey, this Wednesday night, we're going to be having a night of worship to close out our fast, and I hope you've been fasting something, and just being intentional about getting away and getting some alone time with God. Before we go any further, I want to give a big shout out to a lady that has been part of this place since day one. We were hoping to give her a retirement party, but weren't able to. But I've been told she is at home watching. So Watts Bar Community Church, can we just give it up for Miss Faye Rose right now? We love you, lady. We love you. We love you. Hey, I read a meme a couple of days ago that said this: I'm neither an early bird nor a night owl. I am some form of permanently exhausted pigeon. Yeah. Has anybody in English, correct me if I'm saying this wrong. Of course, I may be saying something she's never heard of, which is unlikely, but anybody heard of something called anhedonia? Here's basically what it means without me giving you a big matter. It is a loss of joy. You cannot find joy in the things that used to bring you joy. You just kind of lost your joy. Here are some of the symptoms: lack of interest in things, feeling sad most of the time, not sleeping well, lack of motivation, restlessness, or difficulty concentrating. I got curious as how this might also relate to emotional exhaustion. So I looked it up, and here are the symptoms of emotional exhaustion: feeling drained or hopeless, lack of motivation, difficulty concentrating, lack of motivation, poor sleep. Does anybody notice the similarities there in lack of joy and emotional exhaustion? and I'm going somewhere with this, but this past Monday night, we had prayer to kind of kick off the fast. And man, had about 30 people show up for prayer. Had an incredible time with God that night. It was awesome. But one thing that kept coming up when people would come up, hey, I believe, God's speaking this. God, there was one word that kept showing up: joy. Joy. And then Casey, he said, Pastor Casey said, I feel like God's wanting me to pray for. Is there anybody here that you feel like you've lost your joy, or you're struggling with holding on to your joy? Raise your hand. I want to pray over you. I knew I should have raised my hand. Kelly, you're the pastor. That's why I did not raise my hand. Because you know what the enemy began to do? If you raise your hand, Kelly, people are going to be like, the pastor is running low on joy. The pastor is mentally exhausted, emotionally exhausted. And that's what the enemy, and so I didn't raise my hand. Instead, you know what I began to do? I began to pray over those that did raise their hand, like this empty container had anything left into it to give to someone needing what I did not have. And a lot of times we operate like that because we're afraid to admit we're empty, exhausted, tired. And so the next couple of days, man, that what Casey talked about, and I think Lee Ann talked about, and a couple of others, it resonated. It stuck with me. I think Ben spoke about it. It just began to resonate with me. And I was like, man, maybe that's where God is leading me to talk about. But I was like, no, he's not. So I went in a different direction. And but before I get in there, I kept thinking, man, about that. How many people are tired in our church body? How many feel like the joy of not just their walk with Christ has been zapped, but just the joy of life, of living and here's how many God in our building, in our church are like me right now? And most of you know the past couple of years has been kind of stressful for Denise and I, and what she's walking through with her health. And then Sheridan giving birth to twins, and with Josie and Sage that are absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. But these were unlike her other kids. She couldn't take them home. In fact, for the first couple of days, she couldn't even hold them, couldn't feed them. And then watching my daughter face the emotional trauma of that was hard on a dad. I began to take that on. And so I watched that. And then also in the middle of that, but so Bo could go to work and provide for his family, we had the other 3 grandkids. And I just tell you, we were over at, we went to Denise's family thing this past Saturday, their Christmas, which had to be put off late. And her oldest brother is, 72 years old? And they had just adopted this 6-year-old girl. I was like, I would rather lose a leg. Give me a crutch. That would be a lot easier than taking that back on. And I said that to him. And I don't know if he took that in the right way or what, but it's a lot because they have energy like I don't even remember existed. It is constant with them. And so that, I talk about what I said, it's not there, it's the noise. I'm at the age where I like a quiet house. I like to be able to hear the TV when I'm watching it. But with that, man, it just, if I'm being honest, I found myself with all those things, not just one, but with everything, tired. Tired physically, tired emotionally, tired mentally, tired spiritually. And so, as I said, Tuesday and Wednesday, I kind of ignored God with his prodding about talking about joy, talking about exhaustion. And so by Wednesday afternoon, I'd wrapped up today's message and sent the notes and my PowerPoint but to Kelsey so she could get ready. Knowing knowing I had taken the easy way out in my spirit. And so Thursday morning, I take Juno to school, and as I'm driving back, I shoot Kelsey a text and said, hey, don't print the bulletins yet. God's leading me a different direction. And so I come into my office that Thursday morning, and this scripture jumps out. It's Jeremiah 31:25. I'll refresh tired bodies. I'll restore tired souls. And I felt like Holy Spirit said in that moment, that's what I want to do for you, Kelly. That's what I want to do for Denise. That's what I want to do for your family. That's what I want to do for your church family. I want to refresh tired bodies and restore tired souls. Because here's the truth, guys. In this, whether they're in this room or whether they're watching online, there are new moms that are exhausted. They're overwhelmed physically, emotionally, spiritually. There are new moms that are just praying that new baby just takes a 10-minute nap so they can have 10 minutes of peace. That's exhausting. It's exhausting. Are you hearing me? There are parents that are exhausted. You run one kid to this rehearsal, this practice, and then drop them off and have to go take another kid over there, and then you turn around and do it all again. And you're exhausted. And you would like to feed your kids healthy, but you just like, the arches are calling your name because that's the easiest thing to do. Why? Because you're exhausted. And I'm finding more and more when you become emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically exhausted, your joy kind of goes out with it. Maybe you're here and you're avoiding certain calls. Or you dread going to your mailbox because you know that any day there's going to be a notice from the landlord, a notice from the power company, water company, gas company, saying you're way past due. And it's just draining you. Maybe your marriage has been so much work here lately or for the past some time that you're just tired. You're just tired. And honestly, it's crossed through your mind, would it be better if we just separated? Because I'm tired of working on this marriage. I'm tired of it's just draining me. Maybe it's a health issue. Maybe you've been dealing with some health issues for a while and you're exhausted from doctor's visits. You're exhausted by not getting any answers. You're exhausted because you don't see anything getting better. And don't raise your hand, but I'm wondering if anybody can relate. And we talk about having joy. The joy of the Lord is my strength. And if you're being honest, well, that's a commodity that you're running really low on right now. An article I read in healthline.com said this: people experiencing emotional exhaustion often feel like they have no power or control over what happens in their life. They feel stuck or trapped in a situation. Can't help but wonder if anybody here or watching online can relate to that. Feeling like you have no power, no control, and you feel stuck or trapped. A lot of you are like me and have become really good at hiding your exhaustion, or at least we think we do. Most people that know me know something's wrong, know I'm tired or I'm dealing with it. But here's what I need you to do today. Be honest with God and yourself with where you're at today. Be honest. And don't ignore God's prodding as I did. And again, don't raise your hand, but let me ask some questions, see if any of these resonate with you. Are you tired of working on a marriage that doesn't seem to be going anywhere? Are you tired of struggling financially, living paycheck to paycheck? Or are you a single mom or dad that's just tired because you feel like you're having to do it all? Are you a tired wife because you feel the weight of the household on you? Are you a tired husband or man that's working and working? You want to do the right thing, provide for your family, but it's taken all your time away from your family. Are you a tired teenager that feels like you can't do anything right? Are you a tired parent that feels like you failed because your kid is struggling? Are you tired of attempting to show God you're not a waste of his love and time? Are you tired of the back and forth with your favorite sin? Are you tired of waiting on God? Are you tired of hoping things will change at home? Are you tired of being faithful to a job or a spouse or a ministry that you feel like doesn't appreciate you back? Are you tired of putting on a happy face when inside all you want to do is cry and hide? Are you tired of wearing a mask because you feel like if people really knew you, they wouldn't love you or want to be around you anymore? And you're tired. If any of those describes you, again, you're going to have to be honest with yourself. I am so glad that you're here on a day when you could have easily had a great excuse to stay at home because you're in good company. And I believe God is going to renew joy and give strength to some of you today. Matthew 11. Before we get to Matthew 11, that's where our main focus is going to be. But I want to set this up because Matthew 3 opens up by introducing us to JTB. John the Baptist. Some of y'all knew. JTB. And look at this, John 3, 1. Here's the introduction. John 3, starting with verse 1. In those days, John the Baptist came preaching in the wilderness of Judea and saying, repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near. This is he who was spoken of through the prophet Isaiah, a voice of one calling in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord, make straight paths for him. Who's he announcing right here? Okay, now let's jump down to verse 13 of chapter 3. Then Jesus came from Galilee to the Jordan to be baptized by John. But John tried to deter him, saying, I need to be baptized by you, and do you come to me? John's like, I don't need to be baptizing you. You need to be baptizing me. But Jesus says, no, man, God's preparing me for something. So he goes, this is important. Okay, so he baptized him. Look at this, verse 16. As soon as Jesus was baptized, he went up out of the water. Quick reminder before we go on. Who's baptizing Jesus here? John the Baptist. Who's seeing what we're about to read take place? John the Baptist. Okay, at that moment, heaven was open. He saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting on him. And a voice from heaven said, this is my Son whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Now, I'm going to be sticking really close to my notes because this is really new. But correct me if I'm wrong. If that happened to you, Casey, if we were baptizing somebody up here and all of a sudden heaven opened up, a dove came down, and then we heard God speak, that would be a momentous moment in my life. Listen, everybody would hear about that. That would go on. Would you like a speaking engagement with the man that that would be everywhere. I would think if that happened, you would never doubt who Jesus is again, right? You baptize Jesus, heavens open up, dove comes down, you hear a voice from heaven. This is going to be the top life experience. Now let's jump ahead a couple of chapters. In verse 10, or Matthew chapter 10, Jesus is talking to his disciples. Now, what I'm about to tell you, this is not going to come up, but just trust me, or I'll tell you where it's found if you want to look it up yourself. And he's trying to prepare his disciples for what life is going to be like once he ascends into heaven. Once his resurrection and he's not with them anymore. And in Matthew 10:16, he tells them that he's sending them out like sheep among wolves. In that same verse, he tells them that they're going to be handed over to the local authorities and they'll be whipped and beaten in the synagogues. This is not much of a motivational speech. Then he says, all this is going to be done because of me. He adds this in verse 22 of chapter 10. You will be hated by everyone because of me. And then verse 28, he says, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. So Jesus lays all this out to these young disciples. And then if that wasn't enough, you jump down to verse 38. He tells them this: whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Now we're going to pick up the story in Matthew chapter 11, verse 1. When Jesus finished placing this charge before his 12 disciples, he went on to teach and preach in their villages. John, meanwhile, had been locked up in prison. And when he got wind of what Jesus was doing, he sent his own disciples to ask, "Are you the one we've been expecting, or are we still waiting?" Seriously, John? 8 chapters earlier, you had this incredible experience with Jesus where you baptize him, heavens open up, a dove comes down, you hear God speak, and you're getting 2 of your disciples to go ask Jesus, "Are you the one, or should we look elsewhere?" Isn't it strange, church, what exhaustion and a lack of joy can do to a person? How being tired, growing weary, feeling overwhelmed can cause even a good man or woman to begin questioning things that they know are absolute truth. And this is where John is. He is emotionally spent, physically, spiritually tired. And in that state of exhaustion, he begins to question things that he knows are true. How Jesus responds, though, to these questions is one of the reasons I love Jesus, because Jesus doesn't say, "Hey, are you kidding me, guys? Tell John." Go back and you tell John, does he not remember what happened just a few weeks ago? Are you kidding me? Tell John. Won't you go back and tell John he has no right to question who I am? But I love the way Jesus responds. Verse 4, chapter 11. Jesus replied, "Go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is being proclaimed to the poor." There's no rebuke. In fact, if you keep reading this on, in verse 11, after John's disciples have gone to take what Jesus told them back to John, Jesus says this about him in verse 11. "I tell you, among those born of women, there has not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist." No rebuke of John. Instead, hey, there's not been anybody born greater of woman than John the Baptist. See, I think Jesus knew that those listening, especially his disciples, were going to experience the same thing John was going to experience. They knew, hey, Jesus knew John's not in a good place right now. John's exhausted. His joy is out the window. He's mentally, physically, spiritually exhausted. And Jesus knew that anyone that followed him would find themselves at different seasons of their life where John was right now in his season. That's why at the end of chapter 11, Jesus looks at his disciples. He looks at those listening in, and he says this, verse 28. "So come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." King James Version says, "Come to me, all that labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest." The word labor there and the word weary there in the NIV is the Greek word kopeo. Here's what it means. It means wearied, exhausted with toil or burdens or grief. Come to me, all who are exhausted, burdened. And that word, when he says who are weary and burdened, burden in the Greek, phortizo, and here's what it means. It means to be loaded down. It means, it was, if you look it up, it's like loading an animal up with stuff to carry. I wonder if anybody here feels like you're carrying so much, then here comes something else along to be loaded on your back. and you're exhausted and you're like, I don't know how much more I can carry. I don't know how much more I can take. See, Jesus tells his disciples earlier in chapter 11 that following him was not going to be easy. In fact, it's going to be hard. It's going to be draining at times. It's going to feel overwhelming. But then Jesus gives them this invitation, but come to me. If you're weary, if you're burdened, come to me. If you're taking notes, you need to remember this. Is this, where and who you run to matter. When you're exhausted, when your joy tank is empty, when you're depleted in every way, where and who you run to matter. See, when you're following Jesus, life can be demanding, it can be draining, it can feel overwhelming. But get this, life without Jesus is the same way. Are you hearing me? Yeah, Kelly, don't you mean that if I give my heart to Jesus, I won't feel any of those things? No. Life with Jesus is still going to be draining. It's still going to exhaust you at times. You're still going to have seasons of doubt, seasons when you're emotionally depleted. But so are you going to have those times without Jesus. And I would rather be with Jesus in those times than without Jesus, trying to walk through those times. So guys, listen, when you're feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, when you don't seem to have the joy of the Lord, you have to choose in that moment what or who you're going to run to. Because Jesus says in those moments, come to me. Run to me. I don't know about you, but for me, man, you know my first go-to that I run to, if I don't watch myself, isolation. Shut everybody out. When I'm mentally, emotionally, spiritually exhausted, I just isolate myself. I isolate myself from the very people that could actually help me, very people that could pour into me, the very people that could speak life into me. Man, just probably 3 days ago, I just get a call from, I'm sitting there, I guess it's a snow day, and I get a call from Scott Shaw. Scott said, hey, PK, don't know why, but God told me to call you and encourage you. And he just begins to pour into me, speak life over me. See, that could not happen if I had run to isolation and just avoided phone calls, avoided texts. Because in the past, that's where I would run, isolation. And isolate. Or you know what may be worse than isolation though, Gina? Is running to people that will just empathize with you, agree with you, get mad at you, and get down in that hole with you. And be sad right there. Are you following me? It's not. Jesus says, bring it to me. Bring it to me. Why is it so hard for us to do sometimes? Bring it to me. This is in your notes. I can guarantee you won't find real rest and joy when you're in the wrong place around the wrong people. You may find something temporary, but it won't last. I keep harping on this. If you've been part of this church, you've heard me say this. I believe this with everything in me. Sundays and Wednesdays, men's and women's events are vital and necessary in your walk with Jesus and in your growth. They're necessary. The culture that we're creating here at Watts Bar Community Church is not one of passivity. Not one that you feel like, I hope either I encourage you enough to where you say, I need to serve. I need to get involved. Or you find a church that won't bother you. Is that too much? Because I'm not here just to make you feel good. I'm here to prod you into doing the very things that Jesus, and we're going to talk about here next week, we're going to start a series, Saved Easy, Following Hard. Because I think the church is full of a lot of saved people, but there's a difference in being saved and being an actual follower of Jesus. And we're going to look at that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But we're creating a culture that is actively pursuing God. That's what we want. When we come here on Sundays and Wednesdays, we come to actively worship. We come to actively serve. We come to actively give. We come to actively be transformed by Him and by others that God places in our lives through this community. Who we hang around with when we're tired and exhausted or not feeling any joy, that will determine if you find any rest or not. You need some rest, Colton. That's a big yawn, brother. Jesus says, if you're weary, come to me. If you're burdened, come to me. If you're tired, exhausted, come to me. If you feel like you're carrying more than you can bear, come to me and find rest. Find rest. That word translated to rest, Strong says this about it. When he says you'll find rest, Strong says it is to cause or permit one to cease from any movement or labor in order to recover and collect their strength. To refresh. He says, come to me. Come to me. All that labor. I'll give you rest. Then look what he says right after that in verse 29. This is going to seem strange. He says, come to me. If you're labor, you're tired, now you'll find rest. And he says, take my yoke upon you. Learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Does that sound like any good idea to anybody when you're tired to have somebody else throw their load on you? I mean, I'm like, Jesus, I've got enough on my own to deal with without taking on somebody else's. Jesus, what I'm carrying is heavy enough as it is, and you want me to add yours to it? And if that's your thought, if that's the way you see it, you're not alone. Because I think a lot of us think this way, and it's because we don't really understand what a yoke is. Bring that picture up for me. This is a yoke. That yoke is that board, that wood that has these two arches in it, and you put them together. You put those two cattle, two oxen to pull a cart, plow a field. So if we've got enough to bear on our own, why would we want to accept the invitation of Jesus to take his yoke also? See, those hearing this metaphor, this picture that Jesus was painting, they're farmers. They understood how a yoke worked. A farmer would take a seasoned, an older, a stronger ox, one that has been trained, knows what to do, and they would put that stronger, older ox with a younger one. And by doing that, the younger ox would learn from the stronger ox how to pull the load, how to bear the weight. That younger one would then be forced to move as the older, stronger ox moves, learn the right direction to go. And Jesus says, are you weary? Are you tired? Are you overwhelmed? Yoke yourself to me. Let me teach you. Because also that bigger, stronger yoke, it would also bear some of the weight to where the full load was not on the younger one. So when you understand that, when Jesus take my yoke upon you, he's trying to help us out. He's trying to help us out. Lastly, who you stay connected to matters. Not yet. Almost. Guys, I cannot stress this enough. Who you connect yourself with in your exhaustion, who you connect with in your weariness, in your frustration, in seasons of lack of joy, who you connect with matters. I'll even go far as to say this, who you connect to during this season will determine how you come out of that season. Be careful who you're sharing your problems with. Be careful who you allow into your life when you're tired and exhausted, because Jesus says, take my yoke upon you. He said, share your problems with me. Share your burdens with me. Whatever is weighing you down, whatever is overwhelming you, let me help you carry that. See, when you yoke yourself to Jesus, you begin to move as Jesus moves. You move in the same direction. You find out what speed you need to be moving at. No wonder times we can't find joy. No wonder there are times we can't be refreshed from the exhaustion and find peace. We keep separating ourselves from Jesus and the community that he put us in. And when we do that, we're no longer moving in the direction that he wants us to move in. And we strive and we strive and we strive. Because we're no longer moving in the direction. We're no longer moving in this at the proper speed. And in the process of that, we grow more and more tired, more and more weary, more and more exhausted, and more disconnected. Who are you yoked to? If I can get Bob, Tiff to come on up and get ready. Can I be honest? There are days that I am absolutely yoked to Jesus. I mean, I'm moving as he moves. I'm moving at his pace. I'm answering all the questions right. I mean, it's like me and Jesus are one. Then there are days that I'm yoked to me. Alone. Thinking I can get through this if I just work hard enough. I can get through this if I just do more. If I'm just more patient, if I pray harder, if I read my Bible more. Most of you know one of my favorite people in the Bible is King David. And in Psalms 13, David is running for his life from Saul. David's tired and exhausted. He's worn out. He's mentally drained. He begins to have this conversation with God. See if you can relate to this. Psalms 13, starting with verse 1. I love David's honesty. How long, Lord? Will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? Because David's like, God, have you forgotten about me? Anybody ever felt like that? God, have you forgotten about me? I'm tired, I'm worn out, I'm exhausted. I pray and I pray, but it seems like you're not there. Anybody ever felt that way? Or maybe verse 2 is a more accurate description of how you feel. He says, how long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long, God, must I wrestle with these thoughts? How long must I wrestle with this addiction? How long must I wrestle with this sin? How long must I wrestle in this marriage? How long must I wrestle with this sickness? How long must I wrestle with these thoughts that things would be easier if I just had the guts to end it myself? How long must I wrestle with the thoughts of, I know I deserve whatever I'm getting, but I'm tired? How long, God, must I wrestle with this depression, this dark cloud that just seems to get a grip on me and won't let go? What thoughts are you wrestling with? Have you wrestled with, does God even care? Because I've prayed and I've prayed and I've prayed. Does God even care? Why would God even love me? Is God even real? Because if he's real and he does love me, why am I or someone I know still dealing with cancer? Or if God really loves me, why did he allow the sexual abuse that I walked through? Thoughts. At the end of this verse, David asked God, how long will my enemy triumph over me? He said, God, how long is this going to keep knocking me down? How long is this going to keep kicking my tail? How long am I going to have to wake up and face the same enemy? Because I am tired. I don't want to fight anymore. It's one of the things I love. I do love his honesty with God. And that's why when people tell me you can't tell God how you're really feeling, I'm like, have you ever read the Psalms? Because David gets real with God. Look what he says in verse 3. Look on me and answer, Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death, and my enemy will say I have overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall. It's like David said, God, if you don't do something, if you don't intervene, then just let me die in my sleep. I don't want to raise your hand. I wonder how many here today or watching online have thought that. God, if you don't do something, just let me die in my sleep. Well, that's where David's at mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But after all of that, I want you to see where David finds himself and why Jesus would say 2,000 years later, come to me, y'all who are weary, and I give you rest. David, in all his frustration, in all his tiredness, with all his question, David finds himself at verse 5. Look at this. But I trust in your unfailing love. God, with everything that's going on, I still trust in your unfailing love. David's like, yes, God, this is how I'm feeling. I just need to get off my chest. But you know what? More than my feelings, something overrides that. And it's my trust in your unfailing love. If this is the path I've got to be on, so be it. But at least I know you're right here beside me. And because of that, my heart will rejoice in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. David's in a dark place. He's tired. He's overwhelmed. He has no joy. But David begins to remind himself, God, you've been good to me. There were days, God, I don't deserve it, and you were still good to me. Psalms 46:10 says this, be still, know that I am God. I'll be exalted among the nations. I'll be exalted in the earth. Be still in the Hebrew, Rapha. Get this, it means to sink down into, to cease striving. He says, sink down into me. Know that I am God. Understand, this was written by the sons of Korah. Israel was in a time of war. They're worried. They're spiritually, physically, emotionally exhausted from all the fighting. And God says, be still, sink down, let go of, stop striving. Why? Because I'm going to be exalted among the nation. I will be exalted in the earth. Be still and know that I am God. When we're tired, when life seems chaotic, it's easy to put our focus on the situation. It's easy for us to focus on what's not going right. And God says, hey, stop. Why stop? Because if we continue down this road, our mind is going to take us places it does not need to go. Jesus says, be still. Stop. Sink down into me. Stop your striving and know that I'm God. Let's wrap this up. When John came with his questions, Jesus never rebuked him. I want to read Matthew 11:28-30 through the Message. And I want you to hear the invitation of Jesus. Are you tired, worn out? Are you burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. And he says, walk with me. Work with me. What does it sound like? A yoke. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Stand with me.